You know me, my name's Chris Shaw. We started the Columbus Songwriting Workshop back more than 10 years ago, and we were doing a once a year workshop for songwriters, and it was really great, but we wanted to do more, and we wanted to get more momentum. So during 2020, we rebranded and kind of regrouped into a 501c3 nonprofit called Move Your Music Forward. We wanted to do more of like monthly programming. We started doing these song shares every month, which are the last Tuesday of the month at the Summit Music Hall. If you want to come and you're a songwriter or a musician, you just want to check it out. It's a free event, 6 to 8 every last Tuesday, and we just get around and play songs with each other. It's very, very low key. But the whole idea was to kind of do like a peer group. So that's one of the things we do every month. Another thing that we are doing is working with senior citizens. Right now we're working in Grove City at a place called Story Point, and we're writing songs with these people. My dad, Jim Shaw, is back there. He has been helping facilitate that. And they tell us their stories, and we write songs with them. So today is the second in our Road Ready series. So we wanted to talk with people that are from Ohio and beyond. Last month we had my buddy Blaine Dillinger, who is from Findlay, Ohio. He lives in California and tours with a band called Hyrie. And we did that at Boxland Media up in Worthington. This time around is Jeff Martin, full-time drummer with Trevor Hall, and is it Ableton Tech? Is that a thing? I don't know. He runs Ableton. It sounds fancy. But also amazing record producer. He has a studio here in Sunbury, Ohio, and last month we actually did a remote studio up in Indian Lake, Ohio, and Jeff recorded my band, and that was really fun. And please welcome Jeff Martin.
Thank you.
Are you on?
I'm on.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's up, bro?
I feel like I'm like yelling at you guys. 'Cause I'm right there.
Yeah.
Sounds good. This is for the recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I should actually try to talk.
I mean, I felt like a little projection too.
Yeah.
So I guess just like tell everybody a little bit about yourself. How'd you get started playing like music, drums?
Yeah. So currently I am a touring drummer. I tour mainly with an artist called Trevor Hall. And I do that about 4 months a year, and then the other 8 or so months, recording studio kind of occupies my time. And, you know, the occasional thing like this occupies my time. But, yeah, Chris reached out to me and wanted to know if I could, you know, share some of my insight on the industry and, you know, what my path was to, I think, get where I am right now. Which I was totally excited to do. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how many people in here are musicians and that have played like gigs? Okay.
Sick.
So some of you. Okay, let's see. What about like traveling? Has anybody done any traveling? So we kind of want to make sure we're talking to the audience. Start with just asking some questions, and then
Sure.
we'll open it up to you guys. So I guess what's the biggest thing people get wrong about the life of a touring musician, or just touring in general?
I think, you know, on the way here I was thinking like, all right, there's a lot to be cynical about with the music industry. Don't do that. So I'm not going to do that. My goal is to not do that.
Right.
It is definitely not all rainbows and unicorns, which I think a lot of people think it is. But it's a job. I mean, it's a lot of work, and I think the modern day musician or professional in the music industry really has to focus and put in the work. It's not, you know, there's so many movies of like, you know, Almost Famous and stuff where it's like, oh, it's just rock star, you party. It's like, I don't think you can sustain that anymore in this industry, like in that lifestyle. And I think that vibe has been dead for a while. So it's definitely an industry where you have to take it seriously. You have to, you know, put in the hours. You have to stay organized. You have to, at the end of the day, you are your own small business owner, essentially. So I think if you treat it like that, success will definitely find you in some capacity.
How do you work with like, what's the biggest challenge with organization? Like you talked about that. So that's a big thing for me. It's like really hard to like figure out what to do if there's so many possibilities. I know you do producing, so how do you
Yeah.
organize? How do you balance those two,
That's-
touring and producing?
That's probably the hardest part for me is the organization of keeping track of, because it's going to be really hard for, it's really hard to just do one thing in this industry. So I always say, like, the more hats you can wear, the busier you'll stay. Sometimes that's not a great thing because sometimes you just have too much going on, and you should narrow your focus. But currently my organization is, I mixed all last week, and then I had a session. These 2 days where I had an artist at my studio, and then I have to mix for 2 days, finish a record, and then on Thursday I'm flying to California for 4 days to play a show, and then and then you realize, like, man, I haven't had a day off in 2 weeks, and I'm trying to keep all these different projects together and make sure I'm making my flight on time. Like, am I taking the right cymbals to this gig in LA? Because if I don't have my stuff, I'm screwed there. So it's a lot of planning, especially if you're going to kind of go the route of wearing multiple hats, so you can't stay busy and make it a full-time thing. I think if I just did drums, I don't know if I'd be able to make it a full-time thing. With the studio and being an Ableton tech and wearing a couple other hats, then I've been able to turn this into like a career. But it does take a lot of organization to not screw that up, because nobody cares that I can't go to LA and be like, hey guys, sorry I'm not prepared, I've been mixing the last week and a half. They don't care. They just, you're here. We hired you to do this gig, so we need you to be here and kind of nail it. So just, I think balancing all that is the hardest part of the organization.
So how did you get started with recording? What can you tell people that are younger about recording? I mean, like nowadays it's a lot easier to have your own studio, so what can you talk on that a little bit? How did you get started?
I think I got started because, I started out playing drums, and drums, in my opinion, is probably the hardest thing to record.